Let's go. Context intelligent action. Basically, we are going to try combine ECA, AI, and MCP. So a lot of letters, a lot of abbreviations that they're going to throw at you, and we're trying to make sense of them, trying to combine them, and we'll see where we end up. Quick show of hands. This is going to be the only interaction during the entire presentation, so don't be shy. Who remembers the fairy tale that Dries presented during the Dries Note at DrupalCon Lille in 2023? Okay, few people. That's good. He basically told the story of Drupal. So the guy you see on the left-hand side or on the right-hand side, from my perspective. He told the story of Drupal and its remarkable journey to grow by improving usability, advocating for an open web, and strengthening the marketing efforts of Drupal itself. Because not everything was perfect, that we had to improve, we had to adapt if we want to remain competitive with the other, not only open source, but also the closed source content management systems. And because the villagers were not happy, they were seeing what competitors were doing, they were seeing what competitors were able to deliver to their users, and we were like lacking behind a bit. And there were different innovations and different tracks to make sure that we kept the pace, that we were still relevant, but it was not enough. So Drupal started on a quest, it started on a journey to figure out what it could do, and it encountered other towns or other villages like Reactopia and Contentville and SquareX. And in the end, when it came back to the Drupal village, it had gained a lot of knowledge, and it started adapting the Drupal village. So by simplifying the way the villagers were handling, adapting, managing their homes. So basically expanding Drupal in itself or expanding the functionalities and the features that it contained. So while we learned that we need to enhance Drupal for the ambitious marketeers or for the villagers itself, we can't forget that the other villages, the other systems, they simply won't go away. They will still be there. So we need to continue looking for ways to connect and to collaborate with the others, not just steal ideas or mimic functionality. No, we have to find a way to keep working with them. We need to get off the island or find ways where we can connect our island with their island. So understanding that true innovation comes from unity and knowledge, basically. So let's continue the story, or let's continue the fairy tale that Dries told by saying that one day a mage entered the village. Let's call him Arthur Icarus. If you see the connection, you know what I'm talking about. And he introduced the villagers to a magical particle that he named the Mighty Crystal Portal. Right? Mighty Crystal Portal, MCP. Everybody got it? All right. This particle had the power to bridge the gaps between the villagers, allowing them to communicate and work together seamlessly. With that particle, Drupal could expose its capabilities to the other villages and in return harness their powers as well. Right? So as the villagers embraced the portal, as they began to see that the true potential of their collaborations could also enhance the other villages, the mage became the guiding light between their villages and us. It became the illuminating path to connect to others. So when we translate that to the real world, you will see that the AI module powered by MCP and ECA enables the villagers to integrate AI functionalities from various resources, not only from other content systems, but also from other applications like Slack, like GitHub, and so on, with Drupal itself. So creating a harmonious ecosystem where every village can contribute to the greater good or the greater whole or the greater world, let's put it that way. So today, we embark on a journey through these different mountains or throughout these different islands, and we are going to explore how Drupal, with the help of MCP, AI, and ECA, is forging new paths of innovation. We'll see how AI-driven workflows, automated processes, and intelligent interactions are transforming the landscape of the entire ecosystem, the entire content management system. So we are making the mountains of innovations more accessible and interconnected with each other. So join me while we climb these peaks, when we go over, when we are trying to find routes between those mountains, and we discover the power of collaboration and the endless opportunities that lie ahead when we join forces. My name is Jasper. I'm a Drupal developer. You can find me on various social medias and on Drupal.org by that specific handle. And I work for Dropsolid, right? We're a service company, we're a digital experience company. We also have an experience cloud product. I'm not gonna go into detail about that. If you want to know more, visit our booth. We're at the bottom. Take a waffle, take some speculaas. We don't bite, it's very good. I'm also very passionate about something else, which is renewable energy and how we can make it smart with Drupal. I already submitted that one for the Do It with Drupal game that Frederick announced this morning. I'm hoping I'm going to win a t-shirt. But let's get back to CIA, the Context Intelligence Action session. And this is our agenda for today. We're going to give a brief intro into ECA. Jürgen, if I say something stupid, let me know. We're going to do AI in ECA. We're going to talk about agents, tools, MCP, and of course, at the end, a summary and Q&A. So let's begin with the intro to ECA. ECA stands for Event Condition Action. Right? Everybody's still following. That's quite simple. You have an event, you have a condition, and then you have an action that can do something. It's a Drupal module. It's available on Drupal.org. It's created by Jürgen. He's here in front. So if you have very specific questions about ECA, direct them to him. If not, you can ask them to me as well. Basically, it's a rules engine. It's not rules. It's not the follow-up of rules. It's not a replacement. It's the next iteration, I think, yeah. And at its core, it's a processor. It's processing events. It's looking up what kind of model is using that event. It's going to execute a condition of that particular path, and it's then going to execute that action. There's also some very specific or various user interfaces that you can use to create those models. You have the more frequently used is bpmn.io. I will show you some graphs in a minute. You also have Camunda, and you also have the classic modeler, which is basically Form API, where you have select boxes and some drag and drop elements, and that's it. What are the different components of ECA? You have an event, of course, which is a trigger that happens inside your code, and it initiates a workflow or a model. And examples are the user logs in, a new node is created, a form is submitted, a page is visited, or if you go more exotic, a custom event is being triggered, or a queue or an item in the queue is being processed, stuff like that. A condition is also something from core, and it's a set of rules or criteria that must be met before the following action is going to be executed. You can think of it as the display conditions on a block. You have a block, and you can say only show it on that particular page. It's kind of the same thing. It's basically, in the backend, it's using the same thing. It's using the same plugin manager. Examples are the role of the current user, the content type that is being created or being visited, specific field values that you can compare with. The last component is an action, and it's basically the result or the resulting operation that is being performed when the event occurs and the conditions are met. Examples are, again, sending an email, updating content, specifying specific values for a field, triggering another workflow is also a possibility, writing things into the database, you name it, it's there. This is a very, very simple example. So the event on logging We're going to check the role of the user, and we're going to redirect him to a very specific page. So if we go into detail, now what you see here is a bpmn.io user interface, and on the right-hand side, that's just a screenshot of the sidebar. But the sidebar in bpmn tends to be rather small, so I always took a screenshot and I blown it up on the on the slide here, so it becomes more visible. But as you can see, it's very simple. On the logging or when the user logs in, you can do different stuff. For example, you can check if the current user has a specific role. So in this case, custom properties are the role of the user. He must be an admin, and we don't negate the condition. So if that's true, we're going to redirect them. This is an action. We're going to redirect him to admin/content. That's it. So all the other modules that you're using to redirect users to very specific pages based on their role, you can just throw it out. Just create a model and you're done. You can also create very complex models with it. This one is from Spark, the project that I said in the beginning about renewable energy. This is one of that one. So at the top left hand, you see, I hidden the labels, but you can trigger the model by broadcasting a custom event. It's going to do an API call. It's going to store the result of that API call in a token. It's going to loop over the API call, and it's going to store everything inside a queue. When the queue is being processed, that's the other circle on the left-hand side, it's going to do different stuff with everything inside that object. It's going to process it, it's going to create a point, and then it's going to send it to InfluxDB. Now, that is very specific for my use case, but I just want to show you that normally this would be created in like a drush command or something. That's not necessary anymore. You can just create it via ECA, via models, where you can really visualize what you are trying to build. Another thing, this is actually in production. This is a model created for sending out very specific emails to very specific users containing like an overview of articles that are outdated. So you start with on cron, you fetch a certain list of outdated news items, you go over it, you determine the specific end date that they need to have or the specific end date for when it's outdated, and then you trigger an email, and that email, of course, needs to have a recipient. Every recipient is different, so you need to load the correct recipient based on the correct, in this case it was a province here in Belgium. You specify that on the email and you send out the email. It looks very complex, but I built it in like, 2-3 hours. Instead of writing everything in code, I just drag and drop different components and it was done. Very cool, very useful, and also very explainable to your customer as well. If they see this and they say like, okay, that's cool for the provinces, but we just want to use like a default user, you can just throw out the entire fetching of the different provinces, you switch it out to, okay, send an email to that specific user, and the client already knows what you did and how it would work. So that was ECA, right? It's in core, it's in, not in core, it's in Drupal CMS. I don't know by heart what kind of models are integrated, but I do think that it's the correct way forward to make CMS even more tailored towards the ambitious marketeers and enhancing their functionality when they need it. But let's forget about CMS for this point. We're just going to talk about AI, and the next step that we're going to talk about is AI inside ECA. Not how AI is going to do stuff with ECA itself, with the models, but know how we are using AI in the models itself. So AI, of course, we know it's the artificial intelligence module. It's created by Marcus, Jamie, Frederik, and a bunch of other people. I'm forgetting some of them. I'm not one of those. I'm not one of the core maintainers of it. I'm just, like I said at the beginning, I'm standing on the shoulder of giants. So the AI module, it's known for its versatility. It unifies features from various AI providers and AI related modules. It's also built keeping in mind various stakeholders like developers, site builders, and administrators. And it's probably known the best for its flexibility. You can determine or you can attach any provider that you want if it has support for it. And I think that's the most powerful feature. You have a framework where you can just work with AI-related capabilities without making sure that the provider actually has it. You just use a framework above it. The definition, or what we are mostly looking at when we are talking about ECA, is the operation types in the AI module. I don't know if Marcus or Jamie ever talked about those, but they're basically like a category of AI capabilities or AI requests. They're grouping them by similarity. The components of a operation type are just the type interface, the operation type interface, and it has very specific or very abstract input and output parameters. For example, I will give them in a few minutes, but you can see them as a bundle of capabilities that an LLM can execute, right? They can also be used for tagging, like allowing third-party modules to hook into when a certain request for an usage of an LLM is being requested, like logging, I don't know what else, HTTP requests, making sure that they are correct, rate limits, that was I was looking for, and then of course moderation. The different operation types or the different actions that you can use inside the AI framework are all of these. AI, audio-to-audio, chat, embeddings, image classifications, moderation, speech-to-text, speech-to-speech as well, translate text. And I also added 3 little dots because it's so going fast I can't keep up. Probably now, I created these slides a couple of weeks ago, probably now Jamie already added, Marcus already added another operation type that I am not aware of. So hence the 3 dots, so I'm making sure that there's work for me. In terms of ECA integration, the ones in bold are actually the ones that you can use inside a model. Not all of them, like the text-to-image. I learned that it's in there a couple of weeks ago. I created an issue in the issue queue for the AI integration ECA module that I need to create an actual action for it so that I can use it inside a model. The other ones are already there, and we'll go over that in a few minutes. But this is kind of an overview of every provider. You can see them on the left, like Anthropic, OpenAI, Hugging Face, Mistral, and what kind of operation types that they support. As you can see, not every provider has support for every operation type. So basically, when you're configuring the AI module itself, and where you select for every operation type what kind of model it should use, that's basically this, it's based on this overview. Now, like I said in the beginning, when we are using those actions inside ECA models, we don't really care. We just have to make sure that we choose the correct operation type, and afterwards the framework itself will make sure that you choose the correct provider. So let's begin with the first one, the chat operation type. I think it's the easiest one to understand. What do you need to put into that operation type? Of course, you need to select a model. You specify the token input, basically the data that the LLM needs to work with. The token output, I think it says for itself, whatever the LLM produces, you need to put that into a token. The prompt, you should instruct how the LLM should work with the token input. And then some configuration overrides like the temperature, the tone of voice, stuff like that. Of course, the output I already mentioned. And then use cases are generate a paragraph, generate a weather report from forecast data. That's again a reference to the Spark project. And then I added one this morning, activate an external workflow. For example, if you have a provider like LangChain, the LangChain provider, you can say in a chat, execute, I don't know, send an email to my email address, and I specify that as well in the prompt. Instead of giving that prompt to an LLM, you're giving that prompt to the LangChain to the LangChain system, and it will then execute its own workflow and make sure that the correct LLM is being used for the prompt that you've given it. But that's still very much work in progress. So let's take an example. This is a very simple model, and we are hooking into, or we are listening to the event called when an article is created, or an event that is being broadcast when an article is created. Let's say an article has a body text or paragraphs, or as you have seen in the previous session, an entire layout built in Experience Builder. We can combine that and say, okay, that's all good, you have a lot of text in there, but if we want to share that article on social media, the text needs to be very, very short, because you only have like 140, 160 characters. So we can ask an LLM to create a social media version of that huge body of text. So what do? We ask an LLM via the chat action, okay, using the OpenAI module, the OpenAI LLM, we give it the value of the body field, we give it a prompt like convert the body field of an article, wait, I have to see if I can read it, convert the body of an article to a text that can be shared on social media. We also say that the target audience are developers and people in IT. When that is executed, we save the variable, or we save the response in the response token that's just below the orange rectangle, and then we save that response in a separate field on that article. I'm not going to show a demo of that. It's very simple. Article is created, an LLM is being asked to convert the body text to something that we can share on social media, and that value is being stored in a field value. That's it. Next operation type are embeddings. They're very important for the retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. And again, you have the same input. You have the model, you have some token input, and you have a token output. And the output are the numerical representations of data for the machine learning model. So basically, you have a bunch of text, and you convert that to vectors. So like a combination or a collection of different numbers. Use cases for using the embedding action inside ECA could be for a content recommendation system. Like you could see at the bottom of an article, based on your recent readings, here are some articles that might be related or might be interesting for you as well. Usually in the past, I mean like a year ago, you would use like Solar, where you have the more like this capabilities, but then you would always need to fetch all the IDs, the node IDs that the user has visited in the past. You need to load that entity in Drupal. You have to send that in the query to the Solar search. The Solar will do its, I don't know, magic, and it will return a couple of IDs, another set of IDs that are similar articles, and then we have to render that. What if we could use an embedding for that? Instead of loading all the entities, we just use the IDs to create an embedding or create a vectorialized representation of that node. We fetch it from the RAG, and we show the applicable or the related articles as well. Moderation, that's perhaps a bit more comprehensible than the embeddings. I don't know why you would use embeddings in a model, okay, for the content recommendation system, but I think embeddings or moderation, it's much more comprehensible or much more understandable. Basically what it does is you're going to give a body, or you're giving the text field of an article, you're giving it to an LLM, and an LLM is going to decide whether it needs moderation, whether it's safe to show to the visitors. What is the output? You have a Boolean indicating that content needs to be flagged, or an information about that specific decision. Use cases are automatic comment moderation and user-generated content review. So if you go back to the model where we are hooking into when an article is created, before we are actually creating that social media text via the chat action. Yeah, is there a problem? Ah, okay. Ah ja, all right, nice. Merci, Frederik. So before we're going to use the chat action to create a social media version of the body text, we're first going to moderate it. Moderation, again, we choose a model, we choose the token input. Again, it's here the value of the body field, and we're going to store the moderation result in a token called moderation. When we go further into the model, we're going to check, we're going to add a condition. Is the flagged property of that moderation token, if it's false, that means the moderation decided, or the LLM decided that moderation was not necessary, it is safe. We can then proceed, we can then call another LLM to create that social media version, and we can then save it into another field of the entity. If it's unsafe, that's this pathway. If it's unsafe, we're going to send an email to the email address of the website, and we're going to say the following note was flagged for moderation. You just send out the title, and then you give it the information of the moderation, why it was rejected, or why the LLM thought it was not safe enough to be used on the website. And then automatically we could then unpublish the note, or you could just I don't know, delete it entirely. Then next moderation or next operation type is the speech to text. Basically, you give it some audio and it's going to generate the text. It speaks for itself, and you can use it for automated meeting transactions, transcriptions, and accessibility enhancements. Again, when we look at our model, again, a new article is created. We're gonna, let's say the article was enhanced with a remote video field. We're gonna use that value of that video field, and we're gonna use OpenAI, in this case the Whisper model. We're gonna send the video to it, and the result of that Whisper execution, we're gonna store it in a token called speech to text. So now we have a textual representation of the remote video, and we're gonna store that into a token. Oh, wait, I was too fast. We're gonna store it into a token. We're gonna verify if there is text. If there is text, we're gonna save it into the body field. We're then gonna moderate the body field, and so on and so on. If there is no text, if it was just like a music video, where the LLM could not really understand what was being said, or if it was just, I don't know, something acoustic, we're just gonna notify the admin, and we're gonna unpublish the node because there was nothing to read. Stupid use case, but just showing here that you could actually use very different kind of operation types in the same model, and using very different LLMs, very different providers as well, to create one, one flow, one model where you can do very different things, very different capabilities to enhance the user experience of not only the visitor, but also of the content editor. Text-to-speech, that's just the other way around. Again, used for accessibility enhancements. You can basically create text based on the body field, and it would help screen readers to better tell the blind person, for example, what is written on a certain page. And if you hear all that, you might think like this comes very close to the automators, or the AI automators module from Jamie. And that's true. When I heard about it, and when I saw his workflows of AI website, where he had all those different kind of things that he was doing with LLMs, like creating recipes, creating, like blog posts or podcasts based on different kind of pages, I thought like, why would you want to put all that into code? Why do you want to create an entire separate module for that if you have ECA, and where you have those different models where you can hook into different events, attach LLMs, use the output of the LLM, and put that output into a separate field? That's much more comprehensible than hiding that for developers or for people that are actually building the website if you're using the automators from from Marcus, because that means that when you use the automators, you have to select the source field, you have to select what kind of operation you want to do, and then it will do some magical thing, and then it will save it into another field. But that is too much hidden for me. I want to clearly see what I want to do with my article and with the content of it. So yeah, workflows of AI still is super useful. If you want to use automators, be my guest. I'm going to use ECA. This is one screenshot where on the left-hand side you choose what you want to do with it. You specify some other things. I never looked at it. I never used it. I knew about it, and I thought, like, I can do this with ECA as well, and I just forgot about it. This is another screenshot of where he explains how you could use it. Yeah, be my guest to look at it. I attached it's a YouTube video. I will publish the slides after the session, and there you can see the link where he explains this. All right, that was AI in ECA. Next topic, I'm gonna go a bit farther because I think I'm otherwise gonna run out of time. Agents. AI agents. This was a module that was created by Marcus a couple of months ago, I think in 2024 somewhere. And it's basically a framework for manipulating configuration and content in a structured way or in a controlled way for your configuration and your content. And you can use your preferred large language models, basically the ones that you specified for text to JSON. That's very important. Your LLM needs to understand what JSON is. It should not only grasp what it is, like, okay, JSON, that's the abbreviation and we know what it is. No, it really needs to be able to output it in a very structured way and in a way that it can be validated as well. So an AI agent, in this case, it's a combination of instructions or prompts, and it's a collection of methods that we need to execute or that the Drupal website needs to execute. Examples are field type agent, content type agent, taxonomy agent, and so on and so on. I think Jamie showed an overview of new agents in CMS where you had like 150. That's true. That's a new version of the AI agents. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Let's just keep going. You control the agents via mini Kanban, chatbot, content widgets, and so on, or just buttons in the UI. So you have mini Kanban. I think Jamie already showed it. You have some buttons or just some components here in the right-hand side or in the left-hand side where you can use the agent, for example, creating tags based on a certain node. For ECA, I added one here at top, Ask AI. That's a very simple, very concealed button. It doesn't blow up in your face. It's also not like a chatbot that you could use. I just wanted to make sure that the user is not overwhelmed with, okay, let's just do everything with an LLM. No, we just want to make sure that the LLM for ECA is a helpful tool and not a replacement for the UI itself. Jamie is going to talk about agents with code or no code after my session. I suggest you all stay put because it's going to be very, very interesting. I'm curious to see what he has to talk about as well. But for the ECA agents, the idea itself, it came in during Barcelona, 2024. I think Dries mentioned it in one of his talks, like the next agent that we see that's going to be helpful is the one for ECA, and I was like, yeah, that's my moment to shine because I know ECA. I think I know LLMs and how I can use them, and I can combine those two. So what is the scope of the ECA AI agent? It can answer questions about the existing models in your website. It can answer questions about the different plugins, like the events, the conditions, the actions. It can create new models, and it can also adapt existing ones. Now, of course, it came with a learning path. I'm going to talk you through it because even though the actual version of the model of the module might not be relevant anymore because of the talk that Jamie is going to give in a minute, but I still think that it's relevant to bring over the message how it was created and what kind of building blocks there are. Building blocks being the data provider, repository, and the type data model and mapper. This is kind of a graphical overview. So at the top you have, of course, the LLM, you have the AI module and the AI agent module as well. Then you have the ECA agent, and it's going to use a data provider, a repository, and a serializer. If we look at the data provider, it's a custom service that I wrote. It uses a model mapper, the plugins, and the tokens. I'm going to talk about them in a minute. And then the model mapper, it's creating a schematic version of an ECA model, and it's going to do that from the payload, from a JSON payload, but also from the ECA configuration entity. And it's used for schema generation, like JSON schema generation, because an LLM needs to, it can only expose or it can only generate JSON, but doing that from a model, from a configuration file, that's not really possible, so I had to create like a layer in between them. But this will all become obsolete, and I don't want to say obsolete, but it will be possible to replace that once config validation is in core, because once config validation is in core, you can basically create your own schematic version or your own JSON schema from configuration as well. This is a schematic version of the ECA configuration in how it is now. So you see you have the configuration entity with some properties in there. It has a list of events, a list of conditions, a list of gateways. And then you have some mappings, like an event consists of a plugin ID, a label configuration, and it has a list of successors. So basically your entire model, but then represented in a textual way. I created a layer in between that. Why? Because I can then add some very specific validation on top of it. For example, are all successors valid? Because you can't have a successor of an event being another event. That's not possible. You can execute another event, you can trigger another event, but an event cannot extend another event or cannot be the follow-up of another event. The same for the model ID. It has to match a certain regex expression. And for example, events and actions, they cannot be null. They cannot be empty. A condition, that's not really required. You can just have one event and one simple action connected to each other. And then, of course, the plugin represents an action, an event, or a condition. And then you have a successor, which is again a combination of an action or a gateway and then a very specific condition. When we use that inside the integration module for AI, this is going to come out of it. So this is a list of models, ECA models, that is being put through that layer in between, and it's being created or being exposed as JSON. So you'll see the model ID, that's the ID, the label, redirect on published, and so on. Create an article on page creation, for example. That data that is much more condensed, so that it can, when I give that to the LLM, it really understands, or it really has some knowledge about the different models that are available on the website where the ECA integration is being enabled. This is another version of that same list, but then expanded or shown in a different view mode. You have the teaser view mode, which is this one. You also have the full view mode, which is that one. And not only does it have the same model or the same ID and label, it also shows which events are there, which conditions are there, which kind of actions are there. But if you would give that to an LLM, it wouldn't understand it anymore. It's just too much information to be able to comprehend it in one specific prompt. So I've decided to split that up, create a view mode, the teaser view mode, and the full view mode. But it will become much more clear in a couple of minutes. Data provider, you have Again, plugins and tokens. The same for events. We can show them in a condensed way, like the plugin ID. You see the name, you see the module that is being that provides it. Same for the conditions. Same for the events. You also see for the events that the exposed tokens are there, so the LLM understands what kind of tokens it can use to create other models. Same for the conditions. The conditions are also something special because they can use the operator and the specific things that you configure inside the condition, and every single option that it could could be configured with. This again an overview of the ECA agent with the data provider, the repository, and the serializer. If we go to the repository, basically it's just a matter of retrieving an ECA model from the database and converting it to the layer in between. And it can also build a model based on the JSON payload that was generated by the LLM. Then you have a serializer, of course. It's to provide a schema definition of the type data model. More on that later. But then the actual implementation of the agent is 2 steps. First step, it needs to determine the intent of the user based on the question that was asked. So it starts with a prompt. You give it some possible actions that the LLM could take. For example, it can create a new one, edit an existing model, just give some information, or just fail. This is the prompt. It's very long because I had to include a lot of use cases, a lot of edge cases, but basically it boils down to you're a Drupal developer and you can create models, you can answer questions, and you should figure that out. You will be also giving a list of existing models and events, and you should be able to make sure that whatever the user is asking, you should answer that in a very specific way. This is the format. These are all the different types or the different components that should be included in the response of the LLM, like the action that it should take, the model ID, if it needs, if the following agent needs it, the component IDs. When, for example, the action is information, the component IDs are a list of components that the following agent should request. We can load them up, and then the agent or the response of the LLM could be, this is the information of the components that you were asking for. Some learning examples that it could use when the action is added. This should be the components that it should use for editing the model. Information, like I said, if you're asking information about a specific model, this should be your response. Another information request about very specific components. And if you failed, this should be how you should react on that or how you should respond. Step 2, so first step is to determine what it should do. Second step is basically a differentiator, like, okay, you should execute what the user was asking for. So 2A is execute the task, answer the question of the user. Same structure, you have a prompt, you have some actions, and you have some formats and examples. So again, this is a sub-agent. It has a different kind of prompt. You're saying here that you're a Drupal developer and that you can only answer questions about the models or the specific components. It's not capable of actually creating new ones. Again, possible actions, some formats, and then one-shot learning examples. The second possible step is actually building a model. Again, same structure, some possible actions, some formats, and then examples. But the very important part here are the validation step. The ECA agent, the code itself, it should be able to validate that the JSON that is returned is correct, what kind of actions that are defined, and that the schema is actually correct. Again, another prompt. Instead of a Drupal developer, you're a business process modeling expert. We're also defining that it should follow the BPMN 2.0 standard, and it should comply to the JSON schema. type data, I'm quickly going to go over it. It's basically another way of constructing data in a very structured way. It's in core, very, very long. If you need more information, I suggest you watch the session from, I hope I pronounce it right, Piotr. There's a module on Drupal.org that is capable of generating a schema based on the type data. So if you have this model, if you have this kind of type data model with a model class, a plugin class, a successor, and so on, this is the definition of it. This will come out of that. So this is the entire schema, the entire JSON schema of that ECA model. And we can use that to give it to the agent, to give it to the LLM, like this is the JSON schema that you should follow if you want to create your own model. Again, this is an overview. The first sub-agent is going to determine the task, and then when you have two possible ways, two possible sub-agents, like answer the question or create and edit a model. A quick demo, the access point, of course, I already showed you, is the Ask AI button. When you click on that, you get a pop-up where you can propose your question. You can ask it for information or create a model. There is a video. I hope it still works. So here you see that there's a model in there that can do very specific things. It's one of the demo models that is available online with very different actions. So if I close that one, I'm now going to ask AI some information about it. How does it actually work? Because it's just a lot of rectangles, circles. I don't really know what it's doing. So I'm going to ask AI to explain it to me, and that's the entire information that it was capable of determining. So it's saying that it demonstrates several features of how you could redirect a user based on different conditions. The second one? No. Now I'm going to ask it to create an actual module or create a model. A new article when a new page has been published, and then some conditions when it actually should be created. So first it's going to determine what task it should do, and then it's going to actually perform that task. This part always takes the longest because you're asking an agent or you're asking an LLM to actually do something with JSON and comprehend or make sure that it comprehends what you're doing. So when we open it up, you will see that it was actually created. So I think that's really cool. If you give that capability to a content editor or to a site builder, he doesn't really need to know anymore what those different kind of blocks are doing. You can just give it the prompt or just give it the option to say whatever the site builder wants to create, and the AI will just create a model for you. So if you need more agents or if you need more capabilities automated by an LLM, just look what is in CMS already, like for example, Easy Email, the trash module, the Path Auto module, and try to create an agent for that. Try to create a sub-agent that is capable of generating configuration, basically, or generating content, whatever. It's really powerful and it's really cool. Those were the agents. I think I still have 10 minutes, okay. Quickly going over tools. I said in the beginning, the way that I created the agent now in code, it's not really relevant anymore, besides the fact that I learned a lot and that Jamie will in a minute explain that Marcus will explain in a minute how the new version works. But the fact that you have the data provider, that you have a data modeler, those kind of services, we can now expose them via tools. Because a tool is a way how an LLM can interact with your code and your world, how it can actually execute those Drupal services. The structure of a tool is very important, and it's defined up front. I will show you that in a minute. And an LLM is capable of understanding how many times and when it should execute your tool, and in which order it should execute the tools that was available or made available to it. Some use cases for tool calling are data retrieval, computation tasks, data processing pipelines, and so on. This is always a nice example. So Bob is asking what's the current version of my Drupal website. You have the AI assistant, so basically like the chatbot. And we are saying to the LLM, okay, answer the question of the user and answer the question of the user. The user question was the current version. The LLM says, okay, execute tool Drupal_info. Okay, we execute, Drupal executes that method. It will return that JSON, and then the LLM returns like, okay, I'm running 11.1, and it's being responded back to the user. The tool, the Drupal_info, it was something that doesn't require an HTTP request to an external service, so it's really, it's comprehensible. If we go a little bit further, what if Bob asks what the current position of the International Space Station would be? If we say that to the LLM, it should always respond with, okay, execute tool ISS now. Drupal will understand what the LLM is asking, and it's going to perform a GET request to a very specific endpoint. That endpoint is available on the web. The web will respond, okay, those are the latitude and longitude of the ESS. We will again give that JSON to the LLM, and it will say, okay, the International Space Station is now currently flying over New Zealand. That's tool calling. What it needs is a unique name, a clear description, and a JSON schema of the expected parameters. It's integrated in, or it's exposed or capable. The different providers are capable of doing that. So you have OpenAI that can do it. You have Mistral that can do it. You have Anthropic that can do it. You have Ollama that can do it. And this is an example of how Drupal has implemented it in its own AI framework. So you have an ID, you have a function name. So this is the thing that the LLM is going to say to Drupal, execute this function, a name, and then the context definition of what is required as input parameters. You have the city, you have the country, you have the unit, and it has defined how it should, how the input should look like. Same thing for RAG. You can give a RAG tool to an LLM, and it should then say to Drupal, execute this one, and these are the input parameters that you should use to execute it. There is also, and this is very, very cool, the different actions that are available in core, like send an email, unpublish a note, I don't know, create something new, create a new node, for example. They're also going to be exposed as tools via a driver, and that is being created by Marcus and Michael. I don't know when it's going to be, I think 1.1 or something, then it's going to be available in the AI module. Very cool, very powerful. Am I a fan of that one? Not particularly. Why? Because you're then giving an LLM the power of doing stuff in Drupal without a man in the middle, right? So you're gonna say in a prompt, publish or unpublish that specific node. The LLM is going to execute that tool and be done with it. I'm more in favor of giving an LLM the power of creating models, ECA models, and giving it the power to execute them. But then you really know what the LLM is doing, when it is doing, and you could also say inside an ECA model, only execute it as that particular user. So you're really making sure that authentication, logging, accountability, that's all in there inside ECA. One thing that is going to be soon in the ECA integration for AI is the power to execute or to execute a model via the key of the custom event. And it's going to have two very specific tools, like get all the custom event keys, so get all models, or get, for every model that is defined, every ECA model that is defined and has a custom event that is being triggered, give me that list, and then trigger a model by a specific key. Those are the tools. If I have 5 minutes for MCP. Okay, MCP is basically a new way of connecting LLMs with applications. It's a new open standard created by Anthropic, integrated or supported by the major providers like OpenAI, Copilot, Langflow, and so on and so on. It's announcing itself as the USB-C for AI agents, right? So you have a standard now. And it's, yeah, of course, there's a growing list of integrations, and it allows you to switch the LLM provider and the vendor, so you could actually use the best LLM for the best tool that it needs to do. There is some security issue that is being tackled right now. I know in the MCP version that is going to be released later this week, or later this week, I think. They have support for authentication, so that's really good. What it basically is, it's a host application, like Cloud Desktop or your IDE or any other AI tool. You have a client, which is some software that sits in between your host and your server. And then the server, this is the most important one. This is basically the program that is going to expose its capabilities in our way, or in this case, it's going to be Drupal. So as you can see, you have the host with a client, so this can be Cloud Desktop. You then have the Model Context Protocol via HTTP or the SCDIO, and then you have different servers, Drupal, GitHub, Slack, and via Cloud Desktop, you can then combine all those different things with each other. It has different elements or different parts of the protocol, like resources, prompts, tools, and sampling. Resources are static data. Quickly going to show you the inspector. So this is the MCP inspector. It's connected to a Drupal installation. And when I list all the resources that are available, you can see I've now selected the different kind of content types that are in there. So this is what the LLM is going to receive once it requests the different resource, or when it's going to request the content type resource. So this is basically, again, that JSON version of that resource output. Again, another resource are just a list of nodes. Second one is the prompt. It's predefined templates, predefined prompts with dynamic arguments in there, and it's a way to standardize your interaction with the LLM. So for example, you have a list of prompts, and one could be, okay, analyze the code for potential improvements, and then the argument could be what kind of programming language you want to analyze. Gonna skip that one. Then the tools, this is the most important one. The tools are exposing all the different kind of capabilities that your Drupal site has, and it can take actions in the real world. So again, MCP inspector connected to my Drupal site, and when I list all the tools, these are the ones that are currently available. The general info, remember the schema where I was asking what kind of what the current version of my Drupal site was. This is that tool. The same for the content search. I can use an LLM, or the LLM can search inside my Drupal site. I created these ones up top. You can build a schema. You can look up models, and you can look up plugins. Again, this is the output of the site info tool. This is the content. This is again a screenshot of the content search, so you could use the inspector to see how the tool would work if you specify some input parameters. Sampling, gonna skip that one because it's not implemented yet. There are some security holes or some security issues. They are being tackled, but yeah, MCP it's quite young, so it's normal that it has some problems with it. Gonna skip those a little bit because we're running out of time. Cross-site tool, yeah. platform builders. So basically, yeah, that was the last thing. And I think, okay, the summary, okay, you have the ECA module. You can visualize complex capabilities. You can trigger very different LLM actions or operation types. And you can compartmentalize your code into actions, into different tools, because every model can be exposed as a tool as well. Very complex models that you can create, very simple ones that you can create, very simple ones integrated with AI, speech to text, moderation, and creating social media text based on chat input. You have tools that allow you to interact, or that allow LLMs to interact with your code. You have the model context protocol that is standardizing the way how LLMs can execute those tools. And then you have the AI agent that is going to manipulate the Drupal configuration and the content, and it's basically a combination of the prompts and the different types of operation type, the different types of methods that it can execute. And now we have QA. I don't know, thank you for your attention at least. I'm running over time, so I don't think that there's any time for... Ja, is goed. So if any questions, I'm still running around, grab my arm and I will happily go in discussion.